Hello, good morning, everyone. And for those who are watching on a different time zone, good afternoon or good evening. And I believe for the person I will interview today, I believe it's already good evening or almost. So, anyway, my name is Marilyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating customized programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from 30 countries, over 30 countries in different industries, and that includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, Life UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing this interview and several interventions that we do is because we would like to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and those who are actually afraid that they can't keep their team and business. And so, to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do follow us and join us in the several interventions that we organize. So, today it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader. Faye Lawand is known as the New Zealand's trusted internal conflict resolutions experts and coach for burnt out or nearly burnt out professionals. Her method brings back life ease and excitement for the professionals who's had its or almost burnt out by harnessing the magic of subconscious mind and nervous system to banish chronic stress, anxiety, and fatigue. Her mission is to help burnout or nearly burnout professionals find well-being as well as because she firmly believes that when we're all living the life we want, we can build a kinder, happier world as well. So, without so much further ado, I'd like to bring and invite Faye on stage. Hi, Faye.
Hello, good morning to you. It is morning there, isn't it, Marilyn?
Yes, it's still morning.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and
Yeah.
it is late afternoon here in New Zealand.
Oh.
Always coming to you from the future here. Regardless of whoever I speak to around the world, we're always in the future in New Zealand.
Yeah. Your sound is a little bit low.
Oh,
Let me. I think it's on my side. Okay, sorry. Is it?
that's no
Can you speak
problem.
again? Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
now it's
I can hear
okay.
you. I can hear you well, and I can see you well. I hope the same is true for you.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Good,
Thank you. I
good, good,
think
good.
it's
Yeah,
from my side. So anyway, thank you so much again for being here. And we also apologize to the audience because we were like a bit late due to an emergency. But yeah, at least we are still here and we're
we're
coming
here.
out. And I'm super excited to have this discussion, knowing you and working with you as well, especially that I just actually released less than a week ago like a poll in my LinkedIn where one of the most the most vote is actually on well-being, heart set mindset and well-being, where you were actually like part of as my one of our moderator and speaker
Yeah,
as well for the summit that we organized. And recently I revived that through a poll, and probably 79 to 80% of the vote goes to the first topic, which is on the heart set mindset and well-being. And again, COVID-19 has really gave us so much realization on how this is important for everyone, right? So I mean, let's so I'm so excited. Let's jump in. Again, the theme of the program is around leadership and
yeah,
transformation. And I have like a set of questions. Mainly the first three questions is around for us to be able to understand from which perspective are you coming from.
yeah,
4 to 6 question, I would say, would be the meaty or juicy part of the
yeah.
conversation. And the two most difficult question will be my Miss Universe questions at the end of this. So this, uh,
Are you going to get me out from my sound booth though for
yeah,
that?
yeah, probably.
But Marilyn, I love that your polls are actually indicating and confirming what I have been sensing has been one of the I think unintended positive outcomes of the pandemic.
Mhm.
I think even before COVID hit and before the pandemic started really to change our lifestyle, the well-being factor was very prevalent in organizations, but also as a topic of conversation in people's day-to-day lives. I think there was a real opening of our eyes and our mindset to the importance of well-being in order to thrive. But I think since the onset of COVID, it now has shown us that well being in all of its dimensions, not just physical well being, which is essential, that well-being is a currency moving forward. You know,
Mhm.
it definitely is. I would dare to say one of the most solvent currencies in the new normal is going to be well-being. And I think that's wonderful that we're prioritizing conversations, solutions, approaches, and paradigms that prioritize wellness and well-being, because we know, right? We know it's our lived experience that if
Mhm.
we are not well in our health, in our body, in our minds, in our hearts, in our relationships, in ourselves, we cannot have the impact that we want in the world around us. We
Mhm.
can't live the life that we want. And ultimately, ultimately, I see leadership basically as self mastery. It starts with self mastery. It starts with personal leadership, which then ends up having a positive domino and cascading effect out into the circles of existence in your life. And so yeah, I think that well-being, that attention to well-being, it's high time that we prioritize well-being as individuals, organizations, and leaders. So yeah, I'm glad that the numbers are showing that in your world as well.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So let's get started with the question. I mean, I said that the 4 to 6 question will be the meaty part, and we're only in the introduction, and we're already learning something out of this, right? So anyway, if I we would like to for you to please share with us like your leadership experiences, and if you have like influencers or favorite leadership styles,
Yeah.
whom you'd like to share with us, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Marilyn. I think it's quite important because my background, as you know, is in education and educational leadership. Before I came to do the work that I'm currently doing in being a leader in the area of wellness and well-being.
Mhm.
And one thing that even early on in my career in education, a principle in pedagogy and education, when you're explaining something and clarifying something, you're always talking about what something is and what something isn't, right? And
Mhm.
so I think a good starting point to think about and to discuss leadership is to
Mhm.
bring to mind what leadership is not, because I think there's a real confusion about what leadership is by looking at what it's not. Leadership is definitely not management. It's not your boss. It's not your supervisor. It's not your government leaders. It's not the politicians, at least in my definition, anyway, right? In my definition. They can be, because when you look at what leadership is, the way that I see a leader is an individual or a team of individuals who definitely have a vision, who have an impact, a legacy that they want to materialize and actualize. And they do that by bringing out the best in the people around them in order to meet that outcome that actually serves a greater good. That for me is excellence in leadership. And if you hold that definition of leadership then in mind, you can see how most times, or a lot of times, I don't want to say most times, a lot of times, your traditional definitions of leaders fall through. Because I don't know about you, Marilyn, but I have not come across any of my previous bosses, any politicians that I've known, any government leaders have not really fallen into that definition of leadership. So when you ask me about, leaders and leadership styles that have influenced me, again, I think about all of the previous bosses and leaders that I've had. If they're listening on, if they're listening on here, I doubt they'd be listening on here because they're probably not very interested in improving their leadership styles. They definitely were not leaders. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about what type of leader you want to be by observing the impoverished leadership styles that you've had, where it's been leadership by force, leadership by authoritarianism, leadership by fear, leadership by shame, leadership by aggression. That is not leadership. Yes, you're going to have people follow the rules, but they're following the rules out of fear and not out of faith, and not out of conviction and commitment to a greater vision. So when I think about great leaders that have influenced my view of leadership and the way that I like to bring leadership into the world, I know it's cliched, but I think Mahatma Gandhi is an exemplary leader, absolutely exemplary leader. And and history has shown that there haven't been many leaders like him, because to live up to that exceptional level of leadership, you need a lot of self mastery. Mahatma Gandhi demonstrated and exhibited a lot of self mastery for him to be able to lead an entire nation to independence from a great empirical ruler with nonviolence. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, what an achievement! And I think that's really commitment to a goal, to a vision, and rallying the troops behind him in a way that was impactful, and not fearful. And another leader in modern day times that whose ideas and principles I subscribe to and fits that is Simon Sinek, and that whole idea of knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And I think when you know why you're doing what you're doing, it keeps you inspired and inspiring. It keeps you relevant. It keeps you energized as well. It keeps you able to energize a team behind you and to galvanize those resources behind you. Because one of the things that can happen when leadership is not effective or not strong is that you can have a lack of hope, or a lack of sense of purpose of the people around you, or a lack of sense of why, like, why is this important, or why am I doing this? And when there is clarity on the why and there is a buy-in in the why, that also has a positive trickle down effect in developing leadership in the people around you. And I really believe that that's how you get things done in a way that is positively impactful to everyone around you, and to where you want to go. I hope that's answered your question, Marilyn.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing not only your
Yeah.
experience on when it comes to leadership, but also, like, the people or the leaders that you look up to. And obviously you gave us like two of the top leaders or greatest leader of the past and of today. Um,
Yeah.
and I love when you mentioned about the reason why you have you look up to Mahatma Gandhi. That's because of the self mastery that and that's what I'm actually working on right now as well. And that's true for all leaders. I mean, they have to master themselves in order for them to be able to influence more people as well around
Yes.
them, right? And
And
again,
to
that's
lead by example, and to lead by the self mastery skills by example, because you can only be a leader in your own life when you have self mastery in place.
exactly. And that's the best, I guess. I mean, later on I will ask you on your your take and your definition of what leadership is, right? But just to do to reiterate again, like, why you like Simon Sinek is because the importance of knowing your why, because that's gonna be your compass, right, in all the directions that you were you are going to take. It's your why, it's your purpose, why you are here in this world, right? So again, so that leads me to my question. I mean, having said that, based on your experience and the people or your influencers, ideal influencers, what is leadership for you?
So I think I probably alluded in it or expressed it in a roundabout way. Leadership is definitely not management, supervision, politician, or government leader. Leadership is an individual or a team of individuals that have a commitment to a vision, a commitment to a philosophy, a commitment to a destination, and are able to fulfill that by bringing out the best in the people around them. And with that definition in mind, then you can find leadership at every single level of living. So of course there's leadership at government levels and institutional levels, but also there's leadership among student groups. I mean, when I was a teacher, I used to see it among student groups. There were some students that had that natural innate leadership capacity where they knew what needed to get done and how to help others around them in order to finish that project or in order to meet that deadline. You also can find leadership among family units, where you have a parent who is exceptional at fulfilling the goals of a family by helping everyone meet that direction. You have leadership at a community level where you have people coming together in a community or in a neighborhood in order to fulfill an objective based on working together, pitching in by utilizing the skills and the resources that are available and on hand. And this is why you leadership and management are not always necessarily synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership and politics are not always synonymous, because you can have leaders that aren't in these official roles. And many of the people in these official roles, according to my definition, are not true leaders.
True, true.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I totally agree with you that, it's all about commitment to that vision, your why and your future, right? And that also includes, I mean, and you actually included by bringing up the best of others, right? And truly it's all about people. Leading is about, having that vision and having that the people or the right people who will actually help you, you know bring that into life.
And
You're
keeping the momentum and the energy going, right? Keeping
yes.
the inspiration going, keeping the hope going, keeping the commitment going. Because in the absence of that, I mean, especially in the world in which we live in today, where stress is so paramount, and as we
Mhm.
know, stress depletes our inner resources and it depletes our mental and emotional resources. In
Mhm.
the presence of real, true leadership, then that
Mhm.
helps to fill up the tank that
Mhm.
tends to be depleted from the chronic stress that surrounds that defines the lives of so many people around us.
Yes, true. And so, you've mentioned about stress and like um the kind of world that we're living in right now. Of course,
Mm,
with all the changes and with all the
yeah.
stress and with everything that's happening right now, um, you know, um how would you then actually define or describe the next normal? Because obviously this next normal or the changes that are happening are actually like one of the reasons that are probably giving us stress, right?
Yeah. Look, I think because we've worked together around stress. I mean, stress isn't necessarily a bad thing, and as long as we are living and partaking and participating in life, there's going to be stress. So, like, let's not vilify stress, but it's a type of chronic stress that we know is problematic, and the type of chronic stress that we want to eliminate because long term, that's not good on any level for anyone, both individually and on an organizational level.
Mhm.
So yes, while I think the new normal is definitely going to mean is going to mean a need for um, navigating stressful situations, I think that the new normal is also going to mean a reprioritize, a reprior to reprioritize. I'm trying to put the noun of reprioritizing well-being, reprioritizing the ability to deal with uncertainty, reprioritizing resilience, and reprioritizing creativity and the ability to think outside the box. Because God knows, Marilyn, since 2020, life has changed so much, business has changed so much, work has changed so much that even actually not even since 2020, I don't know what it's like for you in Singapore, but here it seems like in 2022, life is different from 2021, and 2021 was markedly different from 2020, and 2020 different from 2019. And the point I'm trying to make there is that the pace at which things are changing is so unpredictable, and we need to not just pivot, but to be able to think creatively about the pivot when we're in the pivot situation. And that, I think, is going to be a new currency, that ability to think outside the box, to think creatively, to problem solve in a way that, yes, while those were very important attributes before the pandemic, I think they're going to be increasingly more important.
Mm-hmm.
And finding ways to strengthen those abilities, not just in employees, but also I think in our educational systems, is going to be very, very important as well. Because, let's face it, where do our employees come from? They're products of our educational institutions, right? And if our educational institutions are still stuck in the paradigm of the Industrial Revolution and the skill set that was relevant for the Industrial Revolution, that's no longer relevant now. And in the now, we need to be preparing our students, our youth, our juniors, our middle managers, and also the leaderships in the thinking abilities and the thinking skills that will allow them to be divergent thinkers, creative thinkers, and problem solvers.
Wow, that's really amazing how you
Yeah.
actually summarize what you just shared. And again, it's all about continuous learning, adaptability, and resilience to be able to, to stay relevant. Like in our introduction, we made mention as well that, how you can actually, the reason why we are doing this interview and the summit that we have also created last February of last year, right? And it's all about helping leaders to, to get that awareness, and at the same time to see like what they need to do differently so that they are able to stay relevant and adapt in this what we call new or next normal, right? Whatever you want to call it. And before I proceed to the next question, I just wanted to acknowledge Mohammed Ayub. So thank you so much for engaging with us. Actually, yeah. So, oh, he's doing an introduction, but Mohammed, I'm sorry we're not here to to hire anyone. We're here to educate and hopefully inspire more leaders to to be able to lead effectively in the new normal. But feel free to, to join us, to ask questions, relevant questions that will probably help you create the success or get the job that you're looking forward to have. And that's the same for everyone. So please do do join us, do ask questions if you have as well while we're having this conversation. So going back to my question. So I'm
Marilyn, before you do that, can I just connect a very important dot between what we were just talking about, developing the capacity for divergent thinking, being abstract thinkers, and problem solving and
yes,
creativity, and what we were talking about with navigating uncertainty and navigating stress? There is a direct correlation. Because, as we know in your lived experience and having studied the new science of stress and gone through stress training, you know that when the brain has and the nervous system has a natural innate capacity to think creatively and to think
Yeah.
abstractly and to problem solve and to make decisions and to be clear. However, that for those innate abilities, brain capacities, and cognitive functions to come
Mm-hmm.
to the surface and to be optimized, you need to eliminate chronic stress, because
Mm-hmm.
a brain that is stressed cannot be in that optimized cognitive functioning state, which is
True.
another reason why, another plug for, please, if you are leading teams, or you're leading people, or you're a parent, or you're leading classrooms, please try to get to the bottom of eliminating chronic stress, because when you do, you open up the innate capacity of your nervous system and your brain to do all of these things that the next new normal are going to require of us. It's not, I don't think that these things are going to be nice to have. I think they're going to require us to have these skill sets moving forward, because the world has changed, Marilyn. I really don't see any way back to the life that we had in 2019. I don't know about you, but I don't see it happening.
True, true. Yeah. So thank you for summarizing and integrating that for us. And basically, I somehow would say that you've answered a bit of my next question, because I mean, you're an educator and you're also working with corporate leaders as
Yeah.
well as other institutions around the globe in terms of like addressing this chronic stress that you just mentioned. And so my next question is actually, what would you say are the top three problems that leaders would normally face? Or
By
they
normally, do you mean now, or like traditionally, or now, Marilyn?
it could be traditionally, it could be now, because some of that, I would say that some of the problems that leaders are facing now are can be traditional, or some of them are
Yeah.
quite new because of the different challenges that they are facing right now, right? But
Yeah.
you know, I think it's gonna be better for the context of our audience. Probably it's gonna be like more of the challenges or problems that they are facing now that, you know, we can actually you know, at least prioritize um to solve as well, right?
Yeah, and Marilyn, I think that's good. That's a good point, because whether it's corporate leaders, or institutional leaders, or whether it's just people, if you look at the challenges that are arising now in this,
Mhm,
the age of COVID, if you want to call it the age of COVID,
mhm,
is that COVID has actually brought to the surface
mhm,
what was already there, but probably wasn't so much in the spotlight.
mhm,
Like, and that's why, or we started off talking about well-being, and again, especially here in New Zealand, where the work-life balance is really, really important, and that
mhm,
is something that is actually formalized in work cultures, which is wonderful, and
mhm,
formalized in work contracts. Um, Even though well-being was always something that was spoken about,
mhm.
now it's actually become a high focus and has a lot of attention to it. And
Yes.
on the flip side, all the other things that also were always there but weren't spotlighted are coming out to the surface
Mhm,
for
mhm,
attention. So yes, well-being is definitely there, but I think another one is burnout. The statistics around burnout are staggering, and I don't have them in front of me, but I think this the WHO said the statistic, and now I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me, but even if the number is not correct, I think it makes the point. The WHO were saying that by 2035, which is only like 15 years away, that 70% of the population would have experienced at least one burnout in their life.
mhm,
Now, I don't know about you, but I've had three burnouts, and I spent my daily life working with burnt out and nearly burnt out professionals. That
mhm,
is quite, that's very, very big. That's very big, because when you're burnt out, and not only is your performance impacted, and not only is your ability to do your job and fulfill your job and actualize your job challenged, but your ability to be the leader that you want in the outer circles of your life is also challenged. Your ability to parent properly is challenged. Your ability to be a good partner is challenged, so on and so forth. So I think looking at ways to address burnout, I think is going to be really, really important in the new normal. And in the new normal, because there's so much unknown, which fuels stress, and because so many people are working remotely and they're not having the connections that fuel your nervous system and fuel your brain, I think looking for creative solutions for avoiding stress, avoiding burnout is going to be really, really paramount in organizations. And then from that has that cascading concern of keeping workforces and keeping teams and keeping employees engaged and connected, because we know that as things change, connections start to wane. As things grow, connections start to wane. As things become more rapid, connections start to wane. As time persists in an organization or in a job, your reason for why you're doing it starts to wane. So when you add on to it these contextual challenges, that ability to keep people engaged and keep people connected, I think is going to be more important than ever now moving forward. So in summary, it's well-being and everything that goes with that. It's addressing burnout, actually more like burnout prevention, and it's fostering and strengthening connection and engagement in your teams.
Yes, and I believe, like when I asked about the top problems for most leaders, um, one of the HR consultants I had a conversation with, he said like number one is employee engagement, and again that's always like have been a challenge, like from your question whether it's traditional or in the now. I mean, and
Yeah,
it is, and the remote working, hybrid working, whatever they call it now, or whatever it is right now, it has also like add on to the challenges in terms of
yeah,
keeping your employees engaged, right? And I really love that you've shared about well-being. I mean, it's in your space, and again, like sometimes um the organizations or the leaders are actually looking it in the surface rather than really looking at it, or addressing it from the root cause, right? And
yeah,
we're working with human, it has to be integrated, and part of that is really our emotions, stress, our well-being, everything has to be there if they really wanted to have that performance, productivity, and profitability, and that engagement that they are looking for. They have to work more on, I would say, a more holistic way in addressing all of this, right? So thank you for summarizing that for us, and I would like to acknowledge as well, Jojo Ramos has gave us a thumbs up. Thank you, Jojo. He's my friend as well, and I appreciate you watching us today, and feel free to put in your question if anything. um and that leads me now. I mean, of course, we will not leave them with a problem, although partly you've also mentioned like some solutions, or that they can actually address all, the top three problems, in your opinion. So, what do you believe will be the important leadership capabilities and skills that they must have in this next normal to continue to lead effectively?
is that the Miss Universe question?
Not yet.
Not yet. I can't wait for it. I think so. Pre pandemic, that whole focus and conversation on soft skills was already very much very prevalent, right? So it's
Mhm.
not so much about the skills that you get from a textbook that are going to make a difference in terms of your performance and the performance of your team and your leadership capacity, but it's the soft skills. And I think more than ever, those are the skills that are going to make the difference. It's the
Mhm.
soft skills. And in those soft skills, I would also include the human skills, the ability for intuition, the ability for the capacity for compassion, the capacity for kindness, the capacity for patience. I think now more than ever, those are the types of attributes that are really, really going to become key, not just in the new organizations that we're leading, but in the new world that we're working towards. Yeah, so and this is where Marilyn, where I feel quite excited and quite hopeful about the new direction that we're all moving in, because the conversations have shifted and the priorities have shifted and the currencies have shifted in our world and in our organizations about what else matters. It's not just what matters. Of course, productivity matters. Of course, the bottom line matters. Of course, performance matters. But what else matters? And now we're talking about the what else. It is, team mindset. It is the well-being. It is the compassion. It's all of that. And I think as we bring more and more attention of the what else matters in our workplaces and also in our home and in our communities, I think the future bodes really well for us.
Yes, and I really love what you've shared, that it's important that we actually focus more around soft skills and human skills. And that is because, again, like what I've said earlier, we're working with humans, we're working with
Totally,
people. And
totally.
if you really want to get a more sustainable way of really creating that, productivity, performance, profitability, you have to take care of your people, right? Whether it's their well-being, whether their soft skills. And yes, I've actually noticed a lot of transition as well, which is
Yeah.
I'm happy about. And I'm also like partly endorsing, or like hoping to inspire more through this interview with all this soft skills, human skills, intuition, and all the things that we don't normally talk about. I mean, I work a lot with corporate clients, and yet I'm talking about intuition, I'm talking about soft skills, I'm talking about like how important it is to have your self mastery and all those stuff. And
It's the
again,
right brain learning, the right brain learning, the right brain skills, the right brain capacities. And that brings us into wholeness, because we're
exactly.
not just a left brain, we also are a right brain as well. And when
Mhm.
you address both and you have both
Mhm.
coming together, then you create, it's more complete, it's more whole.
Exactly.
And then you don't feel apart from a team, you don't feel apart from a project, you don't feel apart from your work. There's more of a sense of completeness and wholeness, and that can only benefit your bottom line.
Exactly. And that was the conversation I was having a week ago with a friend as well, about leadership and emotional intelligence and all those stuff. And obviously, we can always actually do something for us to be able to really leverage on the potential from the strengths of our team, if we do understand it well, right? If you are doing what you love to do, and
Yeah.
that makes you shine, then you can just do it in your work or wherever you are, right? So it's gonna be amazing. Like, and I mean, I've been listening as well to Gene Key's audiobook recently, and he's been talking a lot about that. I mean, he's it's very interesting that he combines science, ancient studies, as well as astrology in that book. And it's interesting, he said that there are things that are happening to us that actually can influence on a collective way. So I mean,
Yes.
with just like having us working on ourselves, we might be able to benefit other people around us, or even like those who we don't even know, because again, we are all connected, right? As you know.
100%. And you know, Marilyn, when professionals come to me and they want to make certain changes in their work or in their job or in their relationship or in their parenting or in their health, we never focus on that because that's never the problem. That's just symptomatic. In order to get those results that you want, whatever those results are, whether they're in your fitness or in your health or in your relationship or in your career or in your team, the way to do that is by looking at yourself and starting with yourself, and resolving all of that internal chaos and all of the internal conflicts that are keeping you from being the professional you want to be, the parent you want to be, and the partner you want to be.
True, true. And that leads me to my next question. Probably this could be like a summary of what we have been discussing as well, in terms of learning, leadership, transformation. And so, what do you believe will be the role of all these three in order for you to be able to thrive in this next normal: learning, leadership, and transformation?
Right, learning, leadership, and transformation. Yes. So, I think we live in an age of knowledge, don't we? It's been called the
Yes.
digital age, right? It's been called, the knowledge era, and that is so true, right, Marilyn? I mean, we have access to anything we want, any type of knowledge at our fingertips,
Yes.
right?
Just
I
Google
mean,
it.
we can self-prescribe and self-medicate, or self-diagnose and self-learn and self-develop, and there's definitely virtues to that, and there's definitely benefits to that. But
Yes.
we all know that knowledge alone is not does not lead to transformation. Yes, of course you need to know. Of course you need to understand, definitely. But the transformation doesn't come from that. And
Yes.
we know that we need to transform if we want to thrive or if we want to lead our teams and our organizations to top capacity and top performance.
Mhm.
What makes the difference between knowledge, with the knowledge and the learning, and to get to a place of thriving is the actual application and integration of the courses we're acquiring, or the books we're reading, or the trainings that we're going on. It's actually putting them into practice, but not just putting them into the practice for the sake of it. It's actually putting them into practice with discernment, with reflection, with contemplation, with awareness. Yes, I went to this training and now I'm coming back and putting this forward to my teams, which is great. That's better than not putting it forward to your teams. But then how is that how is that knowledge, how is that training actually playing out and bringing you forward to your results or not? And how are you course correcting? And what else can you do in order to transform the situation or the team or the organization or the personal situation to bring you closer to your life? So that capacity for reflection and self awareness and critical thinking, I think, is now important, more important now than ever, Marilyn, especially because we live in an age where anyone can learn anything anytime. But it's what else do you do with that information and that knowledge that's really going to make the impact in
Mhm.
transformation, which eventually is going to lead you or your organization or your teams to a thriving capacity.
Yes, truly, truly. And I've actually, what I got from that message is really like, what makes it different is the application. And again, that's always the top challenge for most L&D practitioners, right? Where like, okay, we've done this training, and how come we're not seeing it? It's mainly because the implementation is lacking it. And I had like the opportunity. This is one of the silver lining I also got from, this current situation or pandemic, where I was able to experiment a lot online as well. And we did, like, other than our master class, what I do is I would arrange a mastermind, which is like a part where we actually do like a lot on the reflection. You've mentioned about reflection. That's why I said, like, oh yes, yes, yes. Because that's the way to go for you to really like understand how can I actually apply this at work, right? And so I've experimented a lot in the past years, where I've done mastermind facilitating to different leaders from around the globe as well. Like, how can you actually improve? Why is this important, right? And what can you do about it? What can you do in your organizations to improve it, right? And at the same time, we've done a lot of gamification as well, which I feel like one of the fun ways for you to be able to really integrate and practice or apply the things that you'd like to learn. And I received similar comments from the attendees as well, that, oh, this is actually one way for us to reflect on what behaviors do
Yeah.
you want to see
Yeah.
at work as well, right? And in the sessions that you've helped us or bring us through the 6 weeks stress response, right? It has a lot of practice, it has a lot of follow through. You are there to help us, but you've always reminded us, it's the integration, it's the practice, it's the, you keep on reminding us to do that. And again, we only get results when we do something about it,
Totally.
of what we learn.
Totally. But Marilyn, also, again, those practices of self-awareness and self-reflection and self-diagnosis and self-correction as well, though I would also put those practices and those skills under the umbrella of soft skills.
Yes.
Because those are that capacity to be introspective is not
Mhm.
something that you learn in a textbook, right? It's
True.
not something, it's not a course that you go to. It is a part of you that can be developed and strengthened in order to strengthen your outcomes and your results. And I think this is a very exciting time actually to live, to work, to train, and to lead, because we have the capacity to tap into all of these unutilized skills that are part of all of us, that can and will make the difference between where we are, which is, just kind of like ticking along, and really transforming and not just thriving as institutions, but helping the people also that are part of that institution also thrive, because it's about self mastery, and it's about bringing
Exactly.
in the whole person by recruiting the right brain as well as the left brain.
Yes. And so I'm curious to know as well, from the last two questions I have for you. These are very open questions, and what I would normally call a Miss Universe question. So I'd like to jump into that and ask you, like, I mean, we had a lot of very fruitful conversations around soft skills, humanizing the way we work, and a lot of practical things that we've talked about around learning, leadership, and transformation. So I'm curious to know what answer will you give me in this question, and feel free to share with us why you've actually chose that as well. So if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
How interesting that you asked me the question, because my name, Lawand,
Yes.
rhymes with wand, right? and in
Exactly.
the work and in the work that I do, that is one of the first questions that I actually ask the clients that I work with. If I could wave a magic wand over your problem, what would be different? So
Mhm.
that's a very familiar question. So if I had a magic wand, what would I do with it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really the immediate thing that comes to me, and this is very very earnest, is to wave it over all 7 billion of us on the planet, in order to connect all 7 billion of us on the planet with these incredibly deep resources and reservoirs of capacities and skills that we don't even know are there, but when brought to the surface and brought together can truly truly make a difference, transform your life and transform the lives of the planet. And this leads me back to my mission. The reason why I do what I do is by helping one person transform their health, their relationships, their career. That then has a positive trickle down effect into their world. And as we become happier in our world, the world around us becomes a happier, kinder, gentler place to be. And I know it sounds really trite, but that is what I would do, Marilyn. I would tap it on all 7 billion of us to awaken that potential that is inside in all 7 billion of us.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And um, at least that's something that you are already doing based on your work, right? To to awaken the potential. If I summarize it correctly, I hope I did. To awaken the potential within them and
And the
transform the.
resources, all of the resources that we don't even know are there. For a number of reasons we don't know that they're there, but those resources, that innate capacity for change and transformation and fulfillment and thriving and potential is there in all of us. It's just hidden under internal conflicts, and all of those false narratives that we've been conditioned into or that we've told ourselves. And that is truly, truly what my wish is, just to wave that magic wand upon all 7 billion of us. And imagine if all 7 billion of us were living with a cleaner internal slate. The world would look so different, so different.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I look forward to that. And at least, again, like I've mentioned, with the work that you do now, it's really like as if you already have that magic wand to help people transform, to live in within their, highest potential, live with their
Yeah.
resources, and to make them happier, by removing all this chronic stress through your work, right? So that leads me to my last question, that if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And feel free to tell us your answer.
Well, this is a question that I actually ask myself every day. If you haven't noticed already, I'm quite a deep thinker, and I think about questions and situations quite deeply. And while that's, it definitely has its pluses, it can also lead you down a rabbit hole, and it can also, be quite depleting. But the question that I ask myself every day is, especially in the current climate that we're living in globally, which I think that we're living in critical times, Marilyn. Like without sounding alarm bells or without, these are critical times that we're living in. And the question I ask myself every day is, what is my role in the solution? Because just thinking about it isn't enough. Talking about it just isn't enough. Blogging about it isn't just enough. Uh, uh, you know, Complaining about it isn't just enough, because that's actually part of the problem if you think about it. Okay, so I'm aware of the situation. How can I be part of the solution? And that is the question right now that I ask myself every day. And to be honest with you, I still haven't formulated an answer, because I want to formulate an answer. And I feel that that's part of, when we talked about personal leadership,
Mhm.
there's also, global leadership. I think for us all to get out of this, I mean, if more of us can be asking ourselves the question is, how can we be part of the solution? What does the solution look like? That's global leadership. Because right now, all I hear is people pinpointing and blaming and looking at what's not working. Yeah, sure, that's part of the awareness piece, but that's not going to get us to an alternative. So, that really right now is the question that I ask myself daily. How can I be part of the solution? And I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you for asking that question and sharing with us and even being
Yeah.
so upfront and honest about it.
Yeah.
It is the question that you ask yourself a lot on a daily basis, but you're still, it's still somehow something that you're looking into deeper, I guess. I would say that you know your role in this situation. um, and it's just that you just wanted to ask deeper, I would say. Like, I mean, with the work that you do as an internal conflict expert, right? Definitely that's one of the solutions that you've been actually bringing out to the world, like
Yes, thank you, Marilyn.
helping
Thank you, Marilyn.
people like us, to transform, to remove all the limitations or the negativities
Yeah.
in our life by, taking charge of our life, in fact, right? Removing, not necessarily removing stress, because as we know, stress could be beneficial as well, right? But it's really the chronic stress or those that
Yeah.
doesn't serve you. I mean, if we can put it in a better way, right? So I really appreciate you because of that. And I believe that's one of the solutions that you bring to the world.
Well, thank you, Marilyn. That's thank you. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. But I think there are so many pressing situations and challenges in the world right now that you kind of feel that you want to have a broader impact, And I guess that's the question. I guess it's like, how can I have broader impact
Mhm.
and bring broader solutions to what's going on in the world around us? But I do appreciate your support, and I do appreciate you saying that. I definitely feel more purposeful now in my life than I ever have, for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, and I believe that our audience is also inspired with like how authentic, how powerful, and how practical this conversation has been for both of us, right? So, again, thank
I'm
you
so
so much.
pleased. Oh, it's such a pleasure, Marilyn. Thank you, and thank you to your listeners. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing in bringing conversations and light on the importance of thinking differently in the places in our workplaces, so that we can live differently.
Yes, thank you so much as well,
Thank
Faith.
you,
Is there
Marilyn.
any
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we end this conversation?
Keep doing the wonderful work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. So thank you again, Faye, and everyone who's listening,
Pleasure.
or even those who will be watching us on a replay later on. So do join us in this journey to create opportunity through several interventions and create the world that we want, right? We can do that. That is, of course, full of opportunities and something that we believe in and that will make us happier. And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to leave you with this quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you, everyone, and bye for now. Thank you, Faye. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.